Lady Helena Ashford pressed herself against the cold stone wall of the drawing-room as her stepmother's voice rang out like a whip-crack. The gathered guests at Ashford Manor turned to watch the spectacle. They always did. "Must you slouch about like a common scullery maid?" Lady Catherine Ashford hissed. Her jeweled fingers gripped Helena's arm hard enough to bruise. "You embarrass this family with your very presence." Helena kept her eyes down. She had learned long ago that meeting anyone's gaze only invited more cruelty. Her worn grey dress hung loose on her thin frame. While her stepsisters wore silk and lace, Helena received the cast-offs deemed too shabby even for the servants. "Forgive me, mother," Helena whispered. The word tasted bitter. This woman was not her mother. Her real mother had died when Helena was 10. That was when the darkness came. Lady Catherine released her with a shove. Helena stumbled, but caught herself. Laughter rippled through the room. Her cheeks burned hot with shame. "Go to the kitchens where you belong," Lady Catherine said, "and take that dreadful face with you. You'll never catch a husband looking like that." Helena fled. Her throat ached from holding back tears. She would not cry in front of them. Never again. The servants gave her pitying looks as she entered the kitchen. Mrs. Davies, the cook, pressed a warm roll into her hands. Helena managed a grateful smile. These kind people below stairs were her only friends now. She ate the roll slowly, savoring each bite. Dinner would not be served to her tonight. Lady Catherine often denied her meals as punishment for imagined slights. Helena had grown used to hunger. "That woman is a devil," Mrs. Davies muttered. She wiped her hands on her apron with angry movements. "Your father would turn in his grave if he knew how she treats you." Helena said nothing. What could she say? Her father had been dead 3 years. He had remarried Lady Catherine, thinking she would care for his young daughter. Instead, she had turned Helena's life into a prison of endless work and constant humiliation. At 23, Helena was considered too old for marriage by society's cruel standards. Her stepmother reminded her of this daily. No man would want her now. She was plain. She was poor. She was worthless. Helena almost believed it. But somewhere deep inside, a small flame still burned. She remembered her real mother's gentle voice. "You have a kind heart, my darling. That is worth more than all the beauty in the world." Helena held on to those words like a drowning person holds on to driftwood. That night, she lay in her tiny attic room and stared at the ceiling. Rain pattered against the single small window. The blanket was thin and full of holes. Cold seeped into her bones. She thought about the life she should have had. Her father had been a baron. She should have attended balls. She should have worn beautiful gowns. She should have been presented at court. Instead, she scrubbed floors. She mended clothes by candlelight until her fingers bled. She ate scraps and slept in a room not fit for a dog. Tomorrow would be the same. And the day after. And the day after that. Unless something changed. But what could possibly change for someone like her? Miles away in London, Alexander Blackwood, Duke of Thornfield, sat alone in his study. The fire had burned low. Shadows danced across the walls like ghosts. He held a miniature portrait in his hand. His wife's face smiled up at him, frozen forever at age 22. Beautiful Catherine. Dead these past 5 years from fever. Alexander was only 32, but he felt ancient. The weight of his title pressed down on him like a stone. Everyone wanted something from him. His presence, his money, his name. But no one wanted him. "Not really, Your Grace," his butler Pemberton said from the doorway. "Lady Worthington has called again. She wishes to know if you'll attend her ball next week." "No," Alexander said. His voice was flat and cold. Pemberton hesitated. "Your Grace, if I may be so bold, you cannot mourn forever. The duchy needs an heir. Society expects—" "I know what society expects." Alexander set the portrait down with careful precision. "Society expects me to marry some simpering girl who wants my title. Society expects me to smile and dance and pretend that everything is fine." He stood and walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass. London stretched out before him, grey and endless. "But nothing is fine, Pemberton. Nothing has been fine for 5 years." The butler bowed and left quietly. Alexander was alone again. As always, he had everything a man could want. Wealth beyond measure, a dukedom with vast estates, power and influence. People bowed when he walked by. Doors opened at his name. But his bed was cold. His house was silent. His heart had turned to ice. Sometimes he wondered if he would feel anything ever again. His mother had written another letter. She always did, gently reminding him that he must remarry, that he must have children, that duty came before personal grief. He knew she was right. He hated that she was right. But the thought of touching another woman, of speaking vows again, of watching another person he loved slip away, it was too much. Better to be alone. Alone was safe. His friend Lord Ashford had been writing too. Strange, rambling letters that spoke of regrets and mistakes. They had been close once, before Catherine died, before Alexander shut everyone out. Now there was a new letter from Ashford's solicitor. Alexander had ignored it for days. He picked it up now and broke the seal. His blood ran cold as he read. Lord Ashford was dead. Heart failure, sudden and unexpected. And there was more. Ashford had made provisions in his will, unusual provisions that named Alexander specifically. Alexander read the words 3 times before they sank in. Ashford had left him guardianship of his daughter, Lady Helena Ashford, with a request that Alexander consider her for marriage. "Consider her for marriage," Alexander read aloud. The words tasted strange in his mouth. He remembered Helena vaguely. A small, quiet girl who had hidden behind her father at social gatherings. She would be grown now, 23 or 24. The letter from the solicitor painted a grim picture. Ashford's widow had been treating the girl poorly, very poorly. There were concerns for her welfare. Alexander crumpled the letter in his fist. He did not want this. He did not want responsibility for some poor mistreated girl. He did not want to marry again. But Ashford had been his friend, and the man had died believing Alexander would help his daughter.
"Damn him! Damn them all!"
Alexander called for Pemberton. "Prepare the carriage. We leave for Ashford Manor at first light." "Yes, Your Grace." "May I inquire as to the purpose?" "I'm going to collect a bride," Alexander said bitterly, "whether I want one or not." Dawn came grey and cold. Helena woke to the sound of her stepmother's shrill voice echoing through the halls. Something was wrong. Lady Catherine only shrieked like that when things did not go her way. Helena dressed quickly in her one good dress. It was faded blue and patched at the elbows, but it was clean. She smoothed her dark hair back and pinned it simply. When she entered the main hall, chaos greeted her. Servants rushed about. Lady Catherine stood in the center of the storm, her face purple with rage. Helena's stepsisters Cordelia and Beatrice huddled together by the stairs, whispering frantically, "What is happening?" Helena asked Mrs. Davies. The cook's face was pale. "The Duke of Thornfield is coming. He'll be here within the hour." Helena's stomach dropped. The Duke of Thornfield, one of the most powerful men in England. Why would he come here? Your father made arrangements before he died. Mrs. Davies whispered urgently. He made the Duke your guardian, and there's talk of a marriage arrangement. The world tilted sideways. Helena gripped the wall for support. No, she breathed, that cannot be. But it was. When the grand carriage arrived, Lady Catherine shoved Helena toward the door like a piece of unwanted furniture. Out, she hissed. You're his problem now. Good riddance to you. There was no goodbye, no pretense of affection. Helena stood on the steps with nothing but the dress on her back as the carriage door opened. A man stepped out. Helena's breath caught. He was tall and broad-shouldered. His dark coat was perfectly tailored. His face was hard and cold, all sharp angles and stern lines. Grey eyes swept over her without warmth. This was the Duke of Thornfield, and he looked at her the way one might look at a stray dog found in the street. "Lady Helena," he said. His voice was deep and utterly without emotion. "I am Alexander Blackwood. Your father made me your guardian before his death. You will come with me now." It was not a request. It was a command. Helena wanted to refuse, wanted to run. But where would she go? She had nothing. No one. "Yes, Your Grace," she whispered. She climbed into the carriage without looking back. The door closed with a final sound. The carriage lurched forward. Helena sat rigid on the velvet seat. The Duke sat across from her, silent and intimidating. She kept her eyes on her hands folded in her lap. Miles passed in terrible silence. Finally, he spoke. "Your father was my friend. He asked me to protect you. I will honor that request." Helena dared to glance up. His face revealed nothing. "I will also honor his wish that I consider you for marriage," the Duke continued. His tone suggested he was discussing the weather. "We will marry in 3 days. The arrangements are already made." Shock stole Helena's voice. "Marriage? To this cold, frightening man? I don't understand," she managed. "Your Grace, surely there's no need." "There is every need." He cut her off smoothly. "You are without protection or fortune. Your stepmother will not take you back. You have no other options." The blunt truth of his words hit her like cold water. "I will provide for you," he said. "You will have a home, clothing, food, everything you need. In return, you will be my Duchess. You will manage my household and appear at my side when required. Nothing more will be demanded of you. Nothing more." Helena understood. He meant he would not touch her, would not love her. This would be a marriage in name only. Something inside her cracked. Even this powerful Duke did not want her. Not really. She was just a duty to fulfill. "Do you accept?" he asked. What choice did she have? Return to her stepmother's cruelty, become a governess or companion, forever at the mercy of others? "Yes, Your Grace," Helena said quietly. "I accept." He nodded once, then turned to look out the window. They did not speak again for the rest of the journey. Thornfield House rose out of the countryside like something from a dream. Massive stone walls, towers reaching toward grey sky, gardens that stretched as far as Helena could see. Helena had grown up in a manor house, but this was different. This was a palace, the home of one of England's greatest dukes, and now it would be her home too. Servants lined up to greet them. A stern-faced butler named Pemberton bowed low. "Your Grace, welcome home." The Duke gestured to Helena without looking at her. "This is Lady Helena Ashford. She will be the new Duchess. See that she has everything she needs." Then he strode away, leaving Helena standing alone among strangers. A kind-faced housekeeper named Mrs. Winter stepped forward. "Come, my lady, I'll show you to your rooms." Helena followed her through hallways lined with portraits of stern ancestors. Her shoes clicked on marble floors. Everything was beautiful and cold and utterly intimidating. Her rooms were larger than the entire floor of her stepmother's house. A huge bed with silk hangings, windows overlooking the gardens, a dressing room full of gowns in every color. "His Grace ordered new wardrobes for you," Mrs. Winter explained. "The modiste will come tomorrow for final fittings." Helena touched one of the gowns with trembling fingers. Soft blue silk. She had never worn anything so fine. "The wedding is in 3 days?" she asked. "Yes, my lady." A small ceremony in the chapel. Just family and close friends. Helena had no family. No friends. She would walk down the aisle alone. That night, she sat by the window and watched the moon rise over the gardens. Everything had changed so fast. Yesterday she was sleeping in an attic. Tonight she slept in a duchess bed, but she felt more alone than ever. The Duke had not come to see her, had not sent word. She was simply here, a piece moved across his chessboard of duty. Helena pressed her hand to the cold glass and let herself cry. Quiet tears that no one would hear. Tomorrow she would be strong again. Tomorrow she would wear her mask. But tonight she grieved for the girl who had dreamed of love. That girl was gone. In her place was a woman who would marry without love and be grateful for the roof over her head. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Modistes and seamstresses, lessons in managing a duke's household, lists of servants and tenants, and social obligations. Helena learned quickly. She had always been clever, though no one had cared before. Mrs. Winter seemed pleased with her. "You'll do very well, my lady," the housekeeper said warmly. "The house has needed a mistress for too long." Helena saw the Duke only once during those 2 days. He passed her in the hallway, gave a curt nod, and continued on. He did not ask how she was settling in, did not check if she needed anything. He was keeping his distance, making clear that this was a business arrangement. Helena told herself she did not care. She had not expected affection, had not hoped for kindness. But late at night, alone in her vast bed, she ached for something she could not name. The wedding day arrived, wrapped in grey mist. Helena dressed in a gown of cream silk. It fit perfectly, skimming over her thin frame and making her look almost elegant. Mrs. Winter arranged her hair in soft curls and placed a simple wreath of white roses on her head. "You look beautiful, my lady," Mrs. Winter said gently. Helena stared at her reflection. She barely recognized herself. The girl in the mirror had clean skin and bright eyes. The gown disguised how thin she was. The hairstyle flattered her face. Maybe she was not as plain as she had been told. Or maybe it was just the beautiful clothes making her look acceptable. She would never know. Pemberton knocked on the door. "It's time, my lady." Helena walked alone down the long hallway to the chapel. Her hands shook. She gripped her small bouquet of white roses tighter. The chapel was beautiful. Candles flickered. Flowers adorned every surface. But it was nearly empty. A few servants stood at the back. An elderly woman, who must be the Duke's mother, sat in the front pew. And at the altar stood the Duke. He wore black. It made him look even more imposing. His face was carved from stone. He did not smile as she walked toward him. Helena kept her eyes forward. One step, another. Her slippers whispered against the floor. She reached his side. He did not offer his hand. The priest began the ceremony. Helena heard the words as if from far away. This was happening. This was real. "Do you, Alexander James Blackwood, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was flat. Do you, Helena Margaret Ashford, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Helena's voice caught. She forced it out. I do. Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. The priest paused. You may kiss your bride. The Duke's jaw tightened. For a moment Helena thought he would refuse. Then he leaned down and pressed his lips to her forehead. Brief, cold, formal. It was done. She was the Duchess of Thornfield now. The Duke's mother approached after the ceremony. She was a handsome woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She looked Helena over critically. So you are the girl, she said. Not unkindly, but not warmly either. I hope you understand what is expected of a duchess. I will do my best, Your Grace, Helena said quietly. The Dowager Duchess studied her a moment longer. You are very young and very thin. We must get some meat on your bones. A duchess cannot appear frail. She swept away, leaving Helena feeling examined and found wanting. The wedding breakfast was a small, awkward affair. The Duke sat at the head of the table. Helena sat to his right. They did not speak. His mother carried the conversation, discussing estate matters and social obligations. Helena listened and tried to memorize everything. Finally, it was over. The Dowager Duchess departed. The servants cleared the table. Helena and the Duke were alone. He stood. I have business to attend to in my study. Pemberton will show you the house. You may go anywhere except my private chambers. Of course, he did not want her anywhere near him. Yes, Your Grace, Helena said. He paused. Something flickered across his face. Then it was gone. You may call me Alexander when we are alone, he said stiffly. We are married now. It was the first personal thing he had said to her. Thank you, Your Grace. Alexander. His name felt strange on her tongue. He nodded and left. Helena sat alone in the beautiful dining room and wondered what she had gotten herself into. The first week of marriage was lonely. Alexander kept to his study or rode out across the estate. He took meals in his room. Helena saw him only in passing. She threw herself into learning her new role. Mrs. Winter taught her about managing the household. The head gardener showed her the grounds. The cook consulted with her about menus. Helena had a purpose for the first time in years. She was needed here. The servants treated her with respect. They called her Your Grace, and bowed when she passed. It should have made her happy, and in some ways it did. But the vast house felt empty, and at night, alone in her bed, Helena ached. She knew her husband slept just down the hallway, so close and yet impossibly far away. She had not expected love, but she had not expected such complete indifference either. On the 8th night, everything changed. Helena woke to the sound of horses and shouting. She rushed to her window and saw servants running toward the front entrance. Torches lit up the darkness. Something was wrong. She grabbed her dressing gown and hurried downstairs. Pemberton was directing footmen in the entrance hall. What's happened? Helena asked. Pemberton's face was grave. His Grace was thrown from his horse. He's injured. Helena's heart stopped. How badly? We don't know yet, Your Grace. The doctor has been sent for. They were carrying him in now. 4 footmen bearing his weight. Alexander's face was pale. Blood stained his shirt. His eyes were closed. Take him to his chambers, Pemberton ordered. Helena followed without thinking. She had been told to stay away from his private rooms, but that did not matter now. They laid him carefully on his bed. Helena could see the wound now, a deep gash on his side where something sharp had cut through cloth and skin. The doctor will be here soon, a footman said. But they were miles from the village. It would take time. Alexander's eyes fluttered open. He looked confused, disoriented. His gaze found Helena. "Why are you here?" he rasped. "You're hurt," she said simply. "I told you to stay away from my rooms." Even now, he was pushing her away. Something snapped inside Helena. She had spent her whole life being pushed away, being told she was unwanted. She was tired of it. "I am your wife," she said firmly. "You are injured. I will not leave you." His eyes widened slightly. He had clearly not expected defiance. Helena turned to Pemberton. "Bring hot water, clean cloths and brandy, quickly." The butler hesitated, looking at the Duke. "Do as she says," Alexander said quietly. The servants rushed out. Helena moved closer to the bed. Her hands were shaking, but she steadied them. "I need to check your wounds," she said. She reached for his shirt. Her fingers fumbled with the buttons. She could feel him watching her, could feel the heat of his skin through the fabric. Her hands trembled against his bare chest as she pushed the ruined shirt aside. The wound was deep but clean. No sign of dirt or debris. That was good. "You'll need stitches," she said. Her voice was calmer than she felt. "Have you done this before?" Alexander asked. There was something different in his voice. Less cold, almost curious. "I tended my father when he was ill," Helena said, "and the servants at my stepmother's house when they were injured. She would not pay for a doctor for them." She saw his jaw tighten. The servants returned with supplies. Helena washed her hands carefully. Then she began cleaning the wound. Alexander flinched, but did not cry out. "I'm sorry," Helena whispered. "I'm trying to be gentle." "You're doing fine," he said. Their eyes met. For the first moment since they met, he really looked at her, not through her, at her. Helena's breath caught. Then the doctor arrived, and she stepped back. But something had changed. She felt it in the air between them. The doctor confirmed what Helena had thought. Stitches were needed. Alexander would need to rest for several days. The wound could easily fester if not cared for properly. "Someone will need to check the stitches daily," the doctor said. "Change the bandages. Watch for signs of fever." "I'll do it," Helena said immediately. The doctor looked uncertain. "Your Grace, perhaps one of the footmen." "I'll do it," Helena repeated. She looked at Alexander. "If His Grace permits." Alexander studied her face. She could not read his expression. "Very well," he said finally. "My wife will tend me." The doctor nodded and left instructions. Helena memorized every word. When they were alone again, Alexander closed his eyes. "You should rest." "So should you," Helena said. "I meant in your own room. I'll stay here tonight, in case you need anything." His eyes opened. "That's not necessary." "Perhaps not," Helena said, "but I'm staying anyway." The corners of his mouth twitched, almost like he wanted to smile. "You're surprisingly stubborn," he said. "You're surprisingly rude," Helena replied, then gasped. She had not meant to say that out loud, but Alexander did smile then, just barely, just for a moment. "Yes," he agreed. "I suppose I am." Helena settled into the chair beside his bed. She would not leave him alone tonight, not when he was hurt and vulnerable. She was his wife, for better or worse, in sickness and health. Even if he did not want her, she would fulfill her vows. Alexander watched her through half-closed eyes. This small, quiet woman who had defied him, who had tended his wounds with trembling but determined hands. He had expected her to be like all the others, simpering and eager to please, or cold and calculating, wanting only his title. But she was neither. She was something else entirely. And for the first time in 5 years, Alexander felt something stir in his frozen heart. Curiosity. The night passed slowly. Helena dozed in the chair, waking every hour to check on Alexander. Each time she found him sleeping peacefully, the rise and fall of his chest steady and strong. In the morning light, she could see him more clearly. Without his coat and cravat, without his usual rigid bearing, he looked younger, less intimidating. There were scars on his chest. Old ones, a life lived fully, marked on his skin. Helena found herself wondering about those scars, about the man beneath the cold duke's mask. Alexander stirred. His eyes opened and found her immediately. "You stayed," he said. He sounded surprised. "I said I would." He tried to sit up and winced. Helena was at his side instantly, helping him adjust the pillows. "Let me check the wound," she said. Her hands were steadier today. She unwrapped the bandages carefully. The stitches looked good. No redness or swelling, no fever. "It's healing well," she said with relief. "Thanks to you." Helena looked up. Alexander was watching her with an expression she could not read. "You're a good nurse," he continued. "Where did you learn such skill?" Helena hesitated. She did not like talking about her past, but something in his eyes made her want to answer honestly. "My stepmother did not believe in wasting money on servants," she said quietly. "When they were hurt or ill, I cared for them. I had to learn quickly. She should have hired a doctor. She said they were only servants, that they did not deserve such expense." Alexander's face hardened. "What else did she do?" Helena shook her head. "It doesn't matter now. It matters." His hand moved, as if he wanted to reach for her, then stopped. "Tell me." So Helena told him. The words came slowly at first, then faster. She told him about the attic room, the lack of food, the constant humiliation, the way her stepmother had crushed her spirit day by day. By the time she finished, her hands were shaking again. Alexander was silent for a long moment. His face was dark with anger. "She will never touch you again," he said. His voice was low and fierce. "I swear it. You are under my protection now." Something warm bloomed in Helena's chest. He was angry on her behalf, protective of her. No one had been protective of her since her father died. "Thank you," she whispered. Their eyes held. The moments stretched between them, fragile and new. Then Pemberton knocked on the door, and the spell broke. "Breakfast, Your Grace?" "Yes," Alexander said. "We'll take it here, together." Helena's heart jumped. "Together? You've been nursing me all night. The least I can do is share a meal with you." It was the first time he had voluntarily sought her company. Breakfast arrived on silver trays. Helena helped Alexander sit up properly, stacking pillows behind him. Their hands brushed, and she felt heat spread up her arm. They ate in comfortable silence. Helena found herself relaxing. This was nice, simple, almost normal. "Tell me something," Alexander said suddenly. "What do you like to do? For pleasure, I mean." No one had asked her that in years. "I like to read," Helena said. "And I used to paint. Though I haven't had supplies in a long time. There's a library on the second floor. Feel free to use it whenever you like." "Really?" Helena could not hide her excitement. "Of course. It's your home now too." He paused. "And I'll have painting supplies brought from London, if you'd like." Helena felt tears prick her eyes. Such a small kindness, but it meant everything. "I would like that very much," she managed. Alexander nodded. He looked pleased. They talked more after that. Small things. He told her about the estate. She asked questions. He answered them patiently. Helena realized she was seeing a different side of him. Not the cold duke, but the man underneath. She liked this man. Over the next few days, Helena tended Alexander faithfully. She changed his bandages, brought him meals, read to him when he grew bored with bed rest. He was a terrible patient, used to being active and in control. Helena found herself scolding him when he tried to do too much. "You'll tear your stitches," she said firmly, pushing him back against the pillows. "You're very bossy for such a small woman," Alexander said, but there was amusement in his voice. "Someone has to keep you from being foolish," Helena retorted. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filled the room like sunshine breaking through clouds. Helena stared at him. His whole face transformed when he laughed. The hardness melted away. He looked happy. She wanted to make him laugh again. "Tell me about your childhood," she said. So he did. He spoke of his parents, his education, his early years learning to manage the duchy. "I always knew what my life would be," he said. "Mapped out from birth. Beauty above all else." "That sounds lonely," Helena said softly. It was. He met her eyes. "It still is." The honesty in his voice caught at her heart. "When I married Catherine, I thought things would change," Alexander continued. His voice grew distant. "I thought I would finally have someone who was just mine. Not the Duke's wife, but my wife." Helena stayed quiet, letting him talk. But she got sick so fast. One day she was fine. The next, she was burning with fever. Within a week, she was gone. His hands fisted in the blankets. "I couldn't save her. All my wealth and power, and I couldn't save her." "I'm sorry," Helena whispered. "I swore I would never hurt like that again." He looked at her. "That's why I've been so cold to you. It's easier not to feel anything." Helena understood. She had done the same thing with her stepmother's abuse. Closed herself off to survive. "But you can't live like that forever," she said gently. "A life without feeling is no life at all." "I'm beginning to realize that." His hand moved across the blanket, slowly, carefully, until his fingers brushed hers. Helena's breath stopped. It was the first time he had touched her willingly. His hand was warm, strong, gentle. "Helena," he said. Her name sounded different in his voice. Not just a name, but something precious. "Yes, thank you for taking care of me, for being patient with me, for being here." "Where else would I be?" Helena said. "You're my husband." "I haven't been much of a husband." "We're learning," Helena said. She turned her hand over so their palms pressed together. "Both of us." Alexander's fingers curled around hers. They sat like that for a long moment, hands clasped, something new and fragile growing between them. On the 7th day, the doctor declared Alexander healed enough to leave his bed. The stitches could come out in another week. Helena was both relieved and sad. Relieved he was recovering. Sad that their time together in the quiet sanctuary of his room was ending. Things would go back to normal now. He would return to his study. She would manage the household. They would be polite strangers again. But that night at dinner, Alexander surprised her. "I thought we might dine together from now on," he said. "If you're agreeable." "I would like that," Helena said, trying to hide her smile. "And perhaps you would walk with me in the gardens tomorrow. The doctor says I need gentle exercise." "Of course." So the next morning, Helena took his arm and they walked slowly through the beautiful gardens. The sun was shining. Birds sang in the trees. Flowers bloomed in every color. Helena had never been so happy. They talked about everything and nothing. He told her funny stories about his childhood. She shared memories of her mother. They laughed together. Helena noticed the servants watching them with pleased expressions. Mrs. Winter actually winked at her. Something was changing. Not just between her and Alexander, but in the whole house. There was warmth now. Life. That afternoon, a large package arrived from London. Alexander had it brought to the morning room. "For you," he said. Helena opened it with trembling hands. Inside were paints, brushes, canvases, and an easel. Everything an artist could want. All of the finest quality. "Oh," she breathed. Tears filled her eyes. "I hope you like it," Alexander said. He sounded uncertain. Helena turned to him. She could not find words, so she acted on impulse. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Alexander's hand came up to touch where her lips had been. His eyes were soft and warm. "You're welcome." That night, Helena set up her easel by the window and painted. She was rusty at first, her strokes uncertain, but gradually it came back to her. She painted the gardens at sunset, golden light spilling over flowers, peace and beauty captured on canvas. Alexander came to watch. He stood behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "You're very talented," he said. "It's been so long, I'm out of practice." "It's beautiful." He paused. "You're beautiful." Helena's hand stilled on the brush. She turned to look at him. "You weren't looking," Helena said softly. "No, I wasn't." He reached out and tucked a loose curl behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. "But I'm looking now." Helena's heart raced. She could see something changing in his eyes. The ice was melting. Something warm was taking its place. "Alexander," she breathed. He stepped closer. His hand moved to cup her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone with infinite gentleness. "May I kiss you?" he asked. "Properly this time?" Helena could only nod. He lowered his head slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. She leaned toward him instead. His lips touched hers, soft, sweet, questioning. Helena had never been kissed before, not like this. She let her eyes close and kissed him back. The world fell away. There was only this. Only them. Only this perfect, shining moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he whispered. Helena's eyes flew open. "What? I know it's too soon. I know I have no right to ask for your heart when I've been so cruel, but I can't help it." He pulled back to look at her. "You've brought light back into my life, warmth, joy, things I thought I'd lost forever." Tears streamed down Helena's face. "I love you too. I think I have since you first held my hand." Alexander smiled. A real full smile that transformed his whole face. Then he was kissing her again. Deeper this time. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. Helena melted against him, her hands clutching his shoulders. When they finally stopped for air, both were grinning like fools. "I have so many things I want to give you," Alexander said, "to make up for the life you lost." "You already have," Helena said. "You gave me a home, safety, respect, and now this." She gestured to the paints, the beautiful room, the life she never dreamed she'd have. "I want to give you more," Alexander insisted. "I want to give you the world." "I just want you," Helena said simply. "Everything else is extra." He held her then. Just held her. Helena rested her head against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Strong and steady and real. She was home. Finally, truly home. The next weeks were the happiest of Helena's life. She and Alexander were inseparable. They walked together every morning, dined together every evening, spent hours in the library reading or talking. He showed her the estate, introduced her to tenants who greeted her warmly, taught her to ride, steadying her when she felt nervous. "I won't let you fall," he promised, and she believed him. At night they sat by the fire in his study, her feet tucked under her skirts, him reading correspondence, comfortable silence wrapping around them like a blanket. Sometimes he would look up and catch her watching him. His eyes would warm and he'd set aside his work to pull her into his lap. "What are you thinking?" he'd ask, pressing kisses to her temple. "That I never knew life could be this good," she'd answer honestly. The servants were delighted. The whole house seemed brighter. Even Pemberton smiled occasionally. Helena threw herself into being a duchess. She met with tenants' wives, learning their names and needs. She reorganized the charity efforts, planned improvements to the tenants' cottages. Alexander watched her with pride. "You're a natural leader," he told her. "I just want to help," Helena said. "I know what it's like to be powerless. If I can make others' lives better, I will." He pulled her close. "One of the many reasons I love you." Those words never got old. "I love you." Hearing them from his lips still made her heart soar. One evening Helena worked on a new painting, a portrait, this time, of Alexander. He had fallen asleep in his chair by the fire. His face relaxed in sleep. The harsh lines smoothed away. He looked peaceful. Helena painted quickly, trying to capture this unguarded moment. When Alexander woke, he found her studying him intently. "What?" he asked, smiling. "Just memorizing your face." "Come here," he commanded softly. Helena set down her brush and went to him. He pulled her down onto his lap. "I have something to tell you," he said. His voice was serious. Helena's stomach tightened. "What is it?" "My mother is coming to visit next week, and she's bringing several members of society with her." "Oh." Helena tried to keep the worry from her voice. "She wants to formally present you to society. There will be a ball here at Thornfield House." Helena's hands twisted in her lap. Society, the thought terrified her. She was still learning to be a duchess. What if she made mistakes? What if they thought she wasn't good enough? Alexander tilted her chin up. "Hey, look at me." She met his eyes. "You are my duchess," he said firmly. "You are perfect exactly as you are. Anyone who dares to say otherwise will answer to me. But I'm not. I don't know all the rules. I might embarrass you." "Impossible." He kissed her softly. "You could never embarrass me. You make me proud every single day." Helena wanted to believe him, but old fears were hard to shake. What if they find out about my past, about how my stepmother treated me? "Let them," Alexander said fiercely. "Let them see what you've overcome. You are stronger than any of them will ever be." He held her close and Helena let herself take comfort in his solid presence. "We'll face them together," he promised. "You're not alone anymore." The days before the ball passed too quickly, the house filled with guests. Alexander's mother arrived with her usual critical eye. She inspected Helena at dinner that first night. "Well, you've filled out nicely since the wedding." "That's good." Helena wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not, but the Dowager Duchess continued. "My son seems happy. I haven't seen him smile in years. You've done that." "I hope so, Your Grace," Helena said. "Call me mother," the older woman said. "We're family now." It was the first warm thing she'd said. Helena felt a rush of gratitude. More guests arrived. Lords and ladies of high rank. They were polite to Helena, but she could feel them watching, judging. One lady in particular, Lady Worthington, seemed especially interested. She was beautiful and perfectly polished. She spoke to Alexander with familiar ease. Helena felt a stab of jealousy watching them talk. That night she asked Alexander about it. "Lady Worthington is an old friend," he said dismissively. "Nothing more." "She's very beautiful." Alexander turned to face Helena fully. She's also cold and calculating, nothing like you. He pulled Helena close. You have nothing to worry about. I love you, only you. But Helena's old insecurities whispered. She was still the plain girl from the attic. How could someone like Alexander truly love her? The night of the ball arrived. Helena dressed in a gown of deep blue silk. Mrs. Winter styled her hair elaborately, weaving in pearls and ribbons. When Helena looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like a duchess, elegant and refined. But inside she was still terrified. Alexander came to escort her down. He stopped in the doorway and stared. You're stunning, he breathed. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to. He crossed to her and took her hands. I'm saying it because it's true. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. His eyes held such sincerity that Helena almost believed him. The ballroom was magnificent. Hundreds of candles cast golden light. Flowers covered every surface. Music swirled through the air, and it was full of people, all of them turning to look as Helena and Alexander entered. Helena's hand tightened on Alexander's arm. He covered it with his own. Breathe, he murmured. I'm right here. They descended the stairs together. The crowd parted for them. Helena kept her chin up and her back straight. Alexander presented her to the assembly. My wife, Helena, Duchess of Thornfield. She curtsied gracefully. The crowd returned the gesture. Then the music started and Alexander led her out for the first dance. See, he said as they moved across the floor, you're doing perfectly. Helena started to relax. She could do this. She was the Duchess. This was her home. But then Lady Worthington cut in after the first dance. Your Grace, might I borrow you for a moment? She asked Alexander with a coy smile. Alexander looked reluctant. I should stay with my wife. Oh, just for one dance, Lady Worthington insisted. We're old friends after all. Helena forced a smile. Go ahead, I'll be fine. She watched them dance together. Lady Worthington laughed at something Alexander said. Her hand rested on his shoulder with practiced ease. Helena turned away. She couldn't watch anymore. She found herself near the refreshment table, trying to look occupied. That's when she heard the whispers. Who is she, really? No one's ever heard of her family. Ashford? Oh yes, I knew her father. Married some awful social climber. She had a daughter from his first marriage. You mean that's her? Good heavens, I heard the stepmother treated her like a servant. How embarrassing for His Grace. Married out of duty, no doubt. She's pretty enough in that gown, but she has no connections, no fortune. Nothing to recommend her. Poor Duke of Thornfield, trapped with such a wife. Each word was a knife to Helena's heart. All her worst fears confirmed. She was not good enough. She never would be. She set down her untouched glass and fled, out of the ballroom, down the hallway, away from the whispers and the judgment. She found herself in the library, her sanctuary. She sank into a chair and let the tears come. She had been foolish to think she could be a real duchess. Foolish to think Alexander could truly love someone like her. He was a duke. He could have anyone. And she was just the plain girl from the attic who he'd married out of duty. The door opened. Helena quickly wiped her eyes, but it wasn't Alexander. It was Lady Worthington. So this is where you ran off to, the lady said. She closed the door behind her with a soft click. I needed a moment, Helena said, trying to compose herself. I'm sure you did. Lady Worthington's smile was sharp. It must be exhausting pretending to be something you're not. I don't know what you mean. Come now, let's not play games. You and I both know the truth. Lady Worthington moved closer. You're not suited to be a duchess. You have no breeding, no education, no grace. Helena stood. Please leave. Alexander only married you out of obligation to your father. He told me so himself. The words hit like a physical blow. That's not true, isn't it? Lady Worthington's eyes glittered with malice. Why else would someone like him marry someone like you? He loved his first wife, beautiful, perfect Catherine. You're just a poor replacement. Helena's hands shook. Alexander loves me. Does he? Lady Worthington laughed. Or does he just pity you? Think about it, dear. Has he ever truly said he loves you? Or has he just been kind to you because he feels sorry for you? Helena's mind raced. He had said he loved her. Hadn't he? Or had she just imagined it? Heard what she wanted to hear? Old doubts flooded back. All the years of being told she was worthless, unwanted. A bird. You should leave, Lady Worthington said softly, before he realizes his mistake. Save yourself the humiliation of being cast aside. She swept out, leaving Helena alone with her spiraling thoughts. Maybe Lady Worthington was right. Maybe this had all been too good to be true. Maybe she should leave before Alexander realized he didn't really want her. Helena wrapped her arms around herself and sobbed. She didn't hear the door open again. Didn't hear footsteps approaching. Arms wrapped around her, strong and familiar and warm. Helena, my love, what's wrong? Alexander. He pulled her against his chest, stroking her hair. Tell me what happened. Helena couldn't speak through her tears. She just shook her head. Did someone say something to you? At the ball? She nodded. Alexander's arms tightened. Who? Tell me who, and I'll... It doesn't matter, Helena managed. They're right. Right about what? I'm not good enough to be your wife. I'm not a real duchess. Everyone knows it. Helena, no. Alexander pulled back to look at her face. His eyes were fierce. That's not true. None of that is true. Lady Worthington said. I don't care what that viper said, Alexander interrupted. She's jealous and cruel. Everything out of her mouth is poison. He cupped Helena's face in his hands. You are my wife, my duchess, my love. You are everything to me. But you only married me out of duty. I married you out of duty, Alexander admitted. Helena's heart cracked. But I love you because of who you are, kind, brave, strong, beautiful inside and out. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her trembling lips. You brought me back to life, he said. I was dead inside before you, just going through the motions. But you made me feel again, made me want to be better, made me remember what it means to be happy. Really? Helena whispered. Really? He rested his forehead against hers. I love you more than I ever thought possible, more than I've ever loved anyone. You are my heart, my home, my everything. Helena let out a shaky breath. I love you too, so much. I'm sorry I doubted you. Never apologize for feeling, Alexander said firmly, and never believe anyone who tries to make you feel small. He held her until her tears stopped, until her breathing calmed. Come, he said finally. We're going back to that ballroom, together, and I'm going to make it very clear to everyone exactly how much I love my wife. Helena's eyes widened. Alexander, you don't have to. I want to. His eyes blazed with determination. Let them all see. Let them know that you are mine, and I am yours, and nothing will ever come between us. He took her hand and led her back to the ballroom. Every eye turned to them as they entered. Alexander didn't care. He pulled Helena close and addressed the assembly in a clear, ringing voice. I have an announcement to make. Some of you may have wondered about my marriage, about my choice of wife. Let me be very clear. The room was utterly silent. Helena is the best thing that ever happened to me. She is kind where others are cruel, genuine where others are false, strong where others would break. She has brought joy back into my life, and this house, I love her more than words can express. He looked down at Helena. And anyone who dares to speak ill of her will answer to me. She is my duchess, my wife, my love, and I will defend her honor with my last breath. Then he kissed her, right there in front of everyone. A deep, passionate kiss that left no doubt about his feelings. When he finally pulled back, Helena was blushing furiously, but she was also smiling. The room erupted in applause. Even Alexander's mother was dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Lady Worthington had disappeared. Helena didn't care. Let her go. Alexander led Helena out for another dance. As they moved across the floor, Helena felt like she was floating. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me, for loving me, for being you." Alexander smiled. That beautiful, rare smile that was just for her. "Thank you for saving me." The rest of the ball passed in a happy blur. People came up to congratulate them, to welcome Helena warmly into society. Even the Dowager Duchess gave her an approving nod. When it was finally over and the last guest had left, Alexander and Helena retreated to his chambers. He helped her out of her gown with gentle hands, kissed her shoulders, her neck, her lips. "I meant every word I said tonight," he murmured against her skin. "I know," Helena said. And she did. She believed him now. They fell into bed together, wrapped in each other's arms. No longer strangers forced together, but true partners, true loves. "I never want to let you go," Alexander said. "Then don't," Helena replied. "I'm yours, for always." He kissed her again, long and slow and full of promise. Outside, the moon rose over Thornfield House, casting silver light over gardens and grounds, over the home that had been so cold and lonely. But inside there was warmth, love, joy. Two broken people made whole. The months that followed were filled with happiness. Helena threw herself into her role as Duchess. She improved conditions for tenants, started schools for children, became beloved throughout the county. Alexander watched her with pride. His cold, empty house had become a home, filled with laughter and warmth and love. They were inseparable, partners in everything. He consulted her on estate matters. She helped him with difficult decisions. They were a team. At night they lay together and talked about everything and nothing, shared their dreams, their hopes. Their love grew deeper every day. One morning Helena woke feeling strange, nauseous and dizzy. Mrs. Winter took one look at her and smiled knowingly. "I think you should see the doctor, Your Grace." The doctor confirmed what Helena had hoped. She was with child. Helena's hands trembled as they rested on her still flat belly. A baby. Alexander's baby. She found him in his study. He looked up with his usual smile when she entered. "There you are. I was wondering where you'd—" He stopped. "Helena, what's wrong? You're pale." Helena crossed to him, took his hands in hers. "Nothing's wrong," she said softly. "Everything's right." "So right. I don't understand." "Alexander," she guided his hand to her belly. "We're going to have a baby." His eyes went wide. For a moment he just stared. Then joy broke across his face like sunrise. "A baby?" His voice cracked. "We're having a baby?" Helena nodded, tears streaming down her face. Happy tears. Alexander lifted her up and spun her around. laughing, crying, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "I love you," he said over and over. "I love you so much." "I love you too," Helena replied. They held each other for a long time. Two people who had been broken and alone, who had found each other against all odds, who had built a love that would last forever. 9 months later, their daughter was born, perfect and healthy. With her father's grey eyes and her mother's dark hair, they named her Catherine, after Alexander's first wife, a way of honoring the past while embracing the future. Alexander held his tiny daughter with such tenderness that Helena fell in love with him all over again. "She's perfect," he whispered in awe. "She is," Helena agreed. The baby gurgled and wrapped her tiny hand around Alexander's finger. "I promise to protect you," he told her softly, "to love you, to make sure you always know your worth. Just like your mother taught me." Helena rested her head on his shoulder. Her family, her home, her happily ever after. Years later, Helena would think back to that cold day when she first arrived at Thornfield House, frightened and alone, certain she would never be happy. She would remember the cold duke who became the warm husband, the empty house that became a home, the broken girl who found her strength, and she would be grateful for every moment, every challenge, every joy. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the hardest beginnings. Sometimes love finds us when we least expect it. Sometimes the wounds we tend become the bonds that heal us both. Helena had tended Alexander's physical wounds that night, but he had tended her heart, and together they had created something beautiful. A love that conquered all. A happiness that would last forever. And every time Alexander looked at her with those warm grey eyes and said, "I love you," Helena knew she was home. Finally, truly, completely home.